Ever since Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stuck the landing and planted the American flag into the ground, the moon landing of July 20th, 1969 has been identified as one of mankind's greatest achievements. The unforeseen nature of the Apollo 11 expedition categorizes it in the same vein as the creation of the light bulb or even the discovery of fire. The praised identification of the mission makes it all the more ironic how there is a belief held by many that the trip into space never even occurred. Alas, the idea that NASA faked the landing all those years ago on a film set has been a widely held belief, bolstered by observations made on both the lighting, land, and the overall physics surrounding a rocket firing up into space. But explaining the validation of the myth is not the purpose of this video. Instead, this time will be spent debunking the theory and shedding light on the underlying fallacies beneath the objections. But before delving into the poking of the holes, we must first examine the early history surrounding the conspiracy to understand how it rose to notoriety.
Hardly distinguishable from the many other points of light Voyager would see. Nearby planets, far-off suns, but precisely because of the obscurity of our world.
One of the earliest surgences of the moon landing myth came from a libertarian by the name of Bill Kaysing. In his book, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle, he claimed that the 6 Apollo moon landings between July 1969 and December of 1972 were all hoaxes. Furthermore, the moon landing occurred during the time period of the Cold War, or a space war between Russia and the United States. Since the Soviet Union was winning during that time, it has been claimed that the United States had planned the moon landing in order to boost their ego as well as their pride. The greatest offender to possibly having a hand in the filming of the fake landing was visionary filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. The reasoning behind Kubrick was when taking into account his 1968 science fiction epic, 2001: A Space Odyssey. The film was lauded for its groundbreaking special effects and mesmerizing production design, which even today makes the outer reaches of space look extremely convincing. Kubrick created the film with full cooperation from NASA, which in turn allowed him to use some of its technical facilities and even to consult with some of their experts. With no other fictional film at the time managing to achieve this technical wizardry, Kubrick seems like the most likely candidate to helping NASA pull off the hoax in the most visually credible way possible. However, there remains a handful of evidence pointing to the contrary. In an interview, Mr. Kubrick's own daughter, Vivian, explicitly argued that her father had far too much integrity to play a part in something so unethical. Though there remains one rare, raw video interview in which Kubrick pleaded guilty to the filming, one abundant giveaway to its credibility is the fact that Kubrick seems to be being coached on what to say and what not to say by the interviewer the whole time. When backtracking to Vivian's comments about her father's integrity, there is something very off-putting about this interview. Kubrick was of a very my way or the highway mentality when developing his narratives and themes. He would never want to have somebody policing him on what he was attempting to say with his work. This interview is clearly one where the person is putting words in Kubrick's mouth rather than Kubrick speaking for himself. The ironic thing being, the person in the interview isn't even Kubrick, as the interviewer more than once refers to the man by his real name, Sam. The Van Allen belts are two large radiation belts circling the Earth shaped by the planet's magnetic fields and pounded by the high-energy particles from the wind created from the sun. It's been heavily cited that if a human were to ever cross these belts, they would immediately get fried by the deadly amounts of radiation. Radiation sickness has been recorded to begin from somewhere between 200 to 1,000 rads of radiation. The crew of the Apollo 11 were within the vicinity of the belts for less than 2 hours during the expedition and were most likely exposed to at least 18 rads, which would very much leave them in the safe zone. Obviously, a mission of this capacity still requires those to take extra precautions in every facet of it, so NASA made it a priority to make the spacecraft well insulated, allowing for the average radiation contact over the 12-day span to just around 0.18 rads, a similar dosage to that of a chest X-ray. One of the most infamous assertions made towards the moon landing being a hoax is the flapping flag. Photos and videos both seem to show off the flag flapping from a gust of wind, a clear giveaway considering the moon's atmosphere having no air to speak of. However, if one were to look closely at recorded footage involving the flag, it remains in the same position for the duration even as things such as the astronauts move from their initial placements. The stagnant nature of the flag was accomplished through the usage of a horizontal rod protruding through the post at the top of the pole holding the flag in place. Within video recordings of the flag's planting, it seems to be waving back and forth. This happens due to the fact that when placing the pole into the ground, the astronauts had to rotate it back and forth to gain an upper hand in the digging until the lunar sol, causing the flag to flutter from the pendulum. Most footage and photos of the flag show it to be in the same consistent position. Another objection raised to the validation of the landing involves the stars, or lack thereof, in the sky. This is because of the extreme contrast between light and dark which occurs in most pictures. The surface of the moon exemplifies the sunlight shining down upon it. The brightness drowns out the tiny stars in the pitch-black sky. The human eye can adjust itself to the brightness to see the stars, but a camera, unless manipulated to the right settings, can't cooperate with the contrast. There are a number of non-parallel shadows that can be seen in many images of the landing. The obvious question raised being, if the sun is the one source of light, why are shadows looking to be from multiple light sources, most likely a collection of studio lights? However, all sorts of shadows at multiple distinct angles can be created by a rough, uneven surface, even if there is just one individual light source, such as that of the sun. This, combined with the long shadows from the sun due to it hanging low in the sky, help to create these diverse shadows. Thanks to NASA's lunar spacecraft, which has been hovering around the moon since 2009, recent photographs of each Apollo landing sites have been captured. The images align with the locations of the spacecrafts, and if examined closely, one could even see the footprints left by the astronauts. The landing sites have also been identified by other spacecrafts from China, India, and even Japan. With all the faked moon landing conspiracies circulating society, it's hard to believe that the moon landing wasn't faked. People who believe in these conspiracies often present persuading evidence such as the Van Allen belts, which could have been given radiation sickness to the astronauts, therefore preventing them from passing through it and going to the moon. The flapping American flag, which could have been flapping from air hitting it, of which there is none in space. The lack of stars in the sky, and the multiple shadows that could not have all been created by the sun. Even though all this evidence is plausible, discoveries have been made refuting this evidence, as has been shown here.